Okay, we are live on YouTube.
She came tonight. She said she was, but is going to try and connect us. So.
Hi, Justin.
Oh, Virginia, how are you?
Pretty good. Cold.
Yeah.
I don't know, I would keep, you know, would be done to stop that one, then cover. And you heard, I told her that we have that. Yeah. And I said, we can do some general, a lot of general, because we have, I think, so that's sort of it. So, we're keeping, these were copies. It's probably. Oh, yeah, definitely. Do we have a, well, we have this available.
Change it. Yeah.
Somebody was asking about that last meeting.
Well, it's 7. Somebody needs to start the meeting.
Could you email that to me? We'll be able to catch it within minutes. It's just the same presentation. So, yeah. So Nancy, change something and say. Okay. Sounds in order. Are we ready to go? Yeah. All right. So, all right, there we are. Okay, welcome to CPO 7, CPO 1 joint meeting tonight. We've got a full schedule, so we're going to jump right into it. Let's start. We have service providers who are available to share a little bit, update us on what's going on. So, let's see, Nicole, would you like to do this? I will. I'll jump in real quick. I will.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Nicole Paulson, planning supervisor at the Park District, and I'm your liaison. So if you have any questions, my email is on file, and I'm happy to take any additional questions that anybody may have. Am I supposed to be somewhere? Is it okay? Okay, great. Just a couple things to note. If you're not familiar right now, the Willow Creek Boardwalk is currently being demolished and rebuilt. So they are actively, they've got cranes with limited disturbance, removing pieces of that boardwalk out so that it can be replaced, which is great. We're also looking at other trails and boardwalks that were vandalized in the nature park. So those are currently in the process of getting repairs as well. So a lot of boardwalks being updated. We've got the, let me see here. A lot of events in January coming up. We have the Butterfly Project at Conestoga Rec Center. The 1st through the 31st, we've got a dive-in movie at Conestoga. We've also got preschool virtual open houses happening. So if you have any additional, or all the additional events are located on our website at thprd.org. We still have our letters for Santa coming, as well as different winter events happening. And let's see here. This is the time of the year that we do our natural resource bear replanting. So often throughout our parks, you'll see different types of plantings taking place, and that is the best time for us to get those in the ground. That's really all I have.
A meeting. on our citizens participation organization.
Oh, thank you.
Can you mute everybody? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you for being here. It's great to hear that the plantings are happening. I had previously called, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half ago, about some trees that went down on Pioneer Park.
Okay.
And, I was told that there were gonna be replacements and that, you know, they usually plant during fall, winter time, best time. That hasn't happened, so if I want to inquire more about that and see where that's at in the process, who should I contact?
Well, you just did. I'm happy to take that question back and double check and find out. Did you speak with anybody previously, or you just sent an inquiry?
I spoke with someone on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will double check, and it's Pioneer, is it in the park area or in the natural area of Pioneer?
Pioneer Park, it's right next to the basketball courts, there was like 2 sequoia trees right there.
Okay.
And now the basketball court isn't shaded, and then like, you know, I just thought go in there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll double check. I know trees with root systems next to some of those asphalt sport courts can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
When we start putting those in, or when we rethink about what types of plants we would put in.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely happy to inquire about that, and we can.
Yeah. And I was told that the sequoias would be replanted just because of climate change and finding suitable like plants that, you know, deal with our climate now. So the expectation isn't that like sequoias would be replanted, but yes, something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to look into that. I'll make that note before I have.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can you say just a few words about volunteer opportunities at Park District?
We have a lot of them. Our volunteer coordinator, Melissa Markham, is the person that is best to talk to about that. I will say that on our website, we do have a section of volunteer section where it lists all the projects that are available to apply to volunteer for. And I believe on that you can click on each project's link and reach out to Melissa and her team to determine what might be best for you to want to volunteer at. And there's lots of programs like Adopt a Park, where a community will get together and adopt a park, and then they'll take on maybe some invasive removal days or work party days where they'll clean up community gardens. There's a whole host of opportunities that we do have. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, next on our schedule, we have Lindsay Wochnick from Walton Valley Water District. Lindsay, are you available?
I am, and I'm going to invite my communications director also to come on screen. There he is right there. So good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Lindsay Wochnick, and I'm with the Walton Valley Water District. Joining us as well is our communications director, Justin Dyke, who's going to be sharing some water rate information after I give some quick project updates. So we've been really busy in our service area. We've been serving about 22 million gallons of drinking water to our customers each day. We do have over 222,000 customers. And you may have seen us in your neighborhood. We're doing water. We're reading our water meters. We're flushing and upgrading water infrastructure. We're flushing our water mains through hydrants. We call that unidirectional flushing. And we're conducting water testing. And the big thing that's happening right now is we're responding to water emergencies, including main breaks. So the cold weather can really affect our water mains beneath the street, causing them to constrict and expand, and sometimes, unfortunately, break. The good news is that we are on the clock 24/7, able to respond to those emergencies. Unfortunately, some of those emergencies do affect our customers' water service. So we want to give as much information as we can to you. We encourage you, if you're experiencing a water outage, to log on to our website and go to tvwd.org/outages. That's where we put our emergency and planned outage information. So that's a good one to remember. And then just the biggest tip we can offer you, especially as we get into the winter, to prevent your water pipes from bursting, is to keep your pipes insulated and maintain a steady flow of water. Just let your faucets drip just a bit when it's very, very cold. It just can help prevent pipes from freezing just by keeping the water moving through them. A couple quick project updates. As we go into 2025 and early 2025, we have several water main replacement projects that are slated to begin in CPO 1 and 7's area. And I can talk more about those projects as they get closer. But now I want to turn it over to Justin Dyke just to talk real quickly about our water rates and answer any questions the community members might have.
Sure. Thanks, Lindsay. So last month, after Lindsay gave an update to CPO 1 and 7, she received a couple questions via email about water rates. And I thought it'd be probably more fitting for myself to come in and address a couple of those questions because while Lindsay knows everything going on in the district, she is kind of new. So she hasn't been with us for as many of these rate setting cycles and some of the future rate planning stuff. So I'll start with the two questions that were sent via email to her. I'll address those, and then I'll open it up for a minute or two and let folks ask any other questions they might have in addition. So the first question she received is, when can we expect the significant yearly increases in rates to stabilize? So the short answer to that is this is the last year of large rate increases. That last rate increase took effect on November 1st, so a little more than a month ago. And that is good news that it's the last major rate increase. I will say that the timing of November 1st is a bit interesting for two reasons. We bill bi-monthly, so the billing cycles last about 2 months long before a new bill is your water meter is read, and that is processed and turned into a bill for customers to pay. So there are a lot of folks right now who have been recently getting their end of summer water bills, and often that can create confusion about what is a high bill due to hot weather in the summer versus a bill that is experiencing or seeing our new water rates. So for example, if you just got your water bill today, it would probably be a bill that would be for most of September and maybe October's billing and sent to you recently, or it could be September and November water usage billed to you in December. So you might still see some hot weather for folks who are running sprinklers and other gardening and things like that at their home. That often can increase usage. And we do try and delineate between those two things, between high usage at the end of summer versus a water rate increase on November 1st. So if there are any questions from anyone more particularly about individual water usage, we'd love to have you call into our office or send an email to our customer service team, and we can look at that usage on a bill over bill cycle and see if there's potentially a high usage issue. Maybe you have a leak in your home relating to an increase in your water bill. But importantly also, November 1st is indefinitely that last large water rate increase. We expect future water rates to increase at a consistent rate that will be more closely matched to inflation. The next time we will look at water rates would be next summer. We will be starting our next biennial rate cycle. So that means I would say around July or August, we will start rate communication outreach for I should say, inviting people to submit public comment to our elected board, who can then receive your comments. We also have a rate cycle where we do a public hearing in person and or virtually to submit those comments directly to our elected board for the future rate cycle. We set rates on a 2-year cycle, so they'll be set for the next 2 years in advance in the end of next summer. So you'll have that to look forward to. But as far as rates stabilizing, yes, we are going through that last big push right now as we develop all the financial stability for the Willamette Water Supply Program that we've been building for a while now. We're really excited to see construction on that project wrap up, a lot of it towards the end of this year, or I should say towards the end of 2025, and beginning to get us into actually delivering water through that system to our customers, which is really the the biggest reason why rates have gone up for many rate cycles for a while now is to build that new water treatment plant and all the associated seismically resilient transmission piping to deliver that water to everyone in our service territory, especially folks in CPO 1 and 7. And the second question is, when will water bill cycles finally be on a monthly basis? So that is something we've been looking into for a while. We have received that feedback through our rate advisory commission, which is a group of the public and our elected board, that they're able to provide that feedback, not just about rates, but rate structures and billing cycles and structures. So we definitely do have that as a priority to get our water bills onto a monthly basis. So there's a couple things there. That is a large project for us. We would have to replace all the water meters in our district with something that can handle a remote reading ability, either called an AMR or an AMI, advanced meter reading or advanced meter infrastructure, depending on the type of technology that would be needed to do that and capture those reads remotely instead of being read manually. Now, we are interested in that very much so. We are going to be pursuing that effort after 2026 when we have our new water treatment plant online, operational, and delivering water. Right now, all of our attention and resources are going to be going into that project to making sure that we're able to integrate that new water source into the water system in early 2026. And afterwards, we'll begin doubling our efforts towards likely what we call an AMI, automated metering infrastructure, that provides real-time meter reads to either a cell phone signal or a radio tower into our computer billing software program and processes those reads more quickly. So we've started part of that project on the computer software side. We do have a small pilot area of the TVWD district that is read manually every month, but it is for an effort to help with the computer program. We call it a customer information system that processes everybody's water bill data and turns it into a bill that is sent to the customer. So we're trying to get ahead of that project as much incrementally as we can while we work towards the eventual larger component of monthly billing, which is replacing all the water meters in our service territory. There's about 62,000 of them in our district, and making them something that is what we'd call a air quote smart meter capacity. So with those two questions, I wanted to see if anyone in the audience, online or in person, has any other follow-ups. Virginia, I see your hand first.
Yeah, for some reason, we don't seem to have the raised hand, lowered hand thing going tonight. But anyway, that worked. How is the cost of the Willamette water supply being distributed? Is it based on a customer's general usage? Is it more for commercial users? Is it just spread equally among everybody? How does that work?
Great question, Virginia. So I will start answering it by saying the Willamette Water Supply is owned by three separate water agencies: TVWD, the City of Hillsborough, and the City of Beaverton. Between those three agencies, the cost of ownership is split amongst ownership shares based on the expected delivery or a volume of water. So TVWD owns the majority of the system. We've invested the majority of the money because we do plan on taking the majority of the water that's treated and brought through that system. Within our service territory, it's north of 90% of our customers are residential. So the vast majority of our customers are single-family residential, or some of them are multifamily residential. It's really a small share of folks that are commercial businesses or larger production, but it is shared evenly. So we do a fixed water rate that everyone pays on a monthly basis, and that is fixed toward the size of the meter serving the either home or business. And it is an increased fee. The larger the water meter, the larger potential amount of water a customer could use, the larger that fixed rate is. And then the consumption rate is a block rate, and that is flat for all residential folks on what we'd call a standard 5/8 meter. There's a regular billing block. We call it like a tier 1 or a first rate. And then for folks who go above that usage, there is a increased rate for high demand or high usage accounts, folks who are just running a lot of water. But it is a very, I'd call it the peanut butter spread, just flat all the way across.
Okay, thank you.
And I thought I saw Rob Skinner from CPO 3 pop up for a second there. Rob, you coming over to join us at this side?
Uh, yes, no, thought I'd just listen in tonight. There's going to be some information new to us, but thank you so much for finishing up the project over here. Alan is coming along.
That's good. Yes, you'll be getting the update once it's time for my appearance at CPO 3 and we are hoping to have Allen Boulevard solved by the end of the year, which the clock is ticking, but we've had dry weather lately, so I'm sure that's helping all the construction crews out there.
They've been awesome.
Wonderful. I appreciate that feedback, Rob. So unless there's any other questions from folks in the room or online, I'll stick around for a little while in case anyone thinks of anything. But as always, happy to address any of these questions. I know we've asked a lot of our customers in the last many years with these water rates increasing. That money is truly going into the investment of a new water treatment plant and the associated piping, something that would be a seismically resilient water treatment plant and water system to serve this community for the next 100 years. So we're really proud of that investment, and we're really looking forward to the future generations that will be able to receive water in this growing community from it.
Great.
Justin, I have one quick question.
Sure, what's going on?
Are most water meters 3/4 inch? Is that the standard residential size?
5/8 inch is the standard residential size. It's also, I shouldn't say standard, it says it's the most commonly common sized water meter in our territory is a 5/8 inch. Most single family residential homes have a 5/8 inch meter.
So if I have a 3/4 inch and I'm not using much water, I could reduce my water bill by replacing it with a 5/8 water meter?
You could, I'm going to say there's an asterisk and potentially a question mark at the end of that. We do have a water meter sizing, like a chart, a fillable form that you can get from our engineering department. It's called the fixtures form. It would ask you how many water fixtures you have in your home, and we would be able to help use that to figure out what your daily consumption is and take an estimate on what we probably think is your potential maximum consumption to make sure that you wouldn't be spinning the 5/8 meter too hard. When they spin that hard, they can get out of calibration, but we'd be happy to look into that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, no questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good
Thanks for having me.
Do we have a representative from Washington County Sheriff's Office?
Online.
Online?
Yes, you do.
Hi, Megan.
Hello. All right. So I believe Sergeant Prince is also online. I'm just going to share the dashboards. You've seen these before. They have not changed. They are still Q4 dashboards. So if you have any questions on those, you can ask Sergeant Prince. Just a quick reminder, I believe I said it last month, keeping an eye out for any sort of package theft that is increasing. And so if you have that occur, please call non-emergency and report it to us. That information helps us. The sheriff's office does use bait packages. And so that helps us know where those would be best distributed. But of course, trying to avoid being a victim of a package theft. Don't leave your packages outside, use tracking numbers, and then if you're not going to be home, seeing if a neighbor can grab those for you. So this is CPO 1's dashboard, and I'll let Sergeant Prince take it away.
Maggie, can you zoom in?
Yeah.
Like a lot more.
Sure. You just tell me. Well,
Oh, that's better. You would just have to move across the screen.
how's that?
No.
No? Okay.
A little better.
The other one is better. You just have to move across the screen. There you go. That's better.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet.
So we'll just do this portion. I don't know exactly why the Zoom broke that. So let me zoom out and zoom back in. There it goes.
Screen really isn't big enough to make any sense out of this information.
Well, if you have any questions on any specific numbers, that's Sergeant Prince is here to answer any of those.
Piece of paper would be really nice.
We can make that note for sure when we're in person.
What are the percentages named?
Sergeant Prince.
You will have to answer that. I apologize.
Okay. I believe those are the percentage out of the all calls that are received.
The total of this month or
Of this quarter.
of this quarter, right? Okay. And that's a rolling quarter, right? Each month, a new month is added in the previous.
It's year to date through.
This is, year to date through September 30th. So this is January 1st through September 30th.
So this is the top 10 initiated calls, so the percentages aren't gonna total 100.
Got it.
Correct.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at the deputy initiated calls.
I'm scrolling
Traffic-
down so you can see
yeah,
those
traffic-
numbers.
Traffic stop. And that looks like it's about one traffic stop per day, maybe more, 1.5. Does that seem reasonable for the amount of traffic we have and the speeding and aggressive driving that's common these days? One traffic stop per day or 1.5?
So I can tell you that unfortunately on our shift 2, due to our staffing levels, and they are very low, our deputies don't have any free time whatsoever. They're on a calls all day. Unfortunately, in this last year, we have sometimes 20 to 30 calls that are holding at a time, and the deputies are just jumping from hot call to hot call. The problem that we have with traffic is that requires some deputy to be free at the amount of time, or I'm sorry, free at the time to do one of those stops. So at least on our shift 2, which is they start at 1 o'clock and then they go to 11. These deputies don't have time to do that. So we do have a traffic team, but again, due to staffing, it is a little smaller than it used to be historically. So that's why you're seeing the numbers that are lower.
Does this include the traffic patrol also?
That I don't
Total
know the
Washington
answer to.
County?
That I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's just compiled for this area specifically.
Oh, just
I-
yeah,
Yeah,
just for
this is-
CPO 1.
This is just CPO 1. Would you like me to move to
Okay,
CPO
well, that
7?
helps. That helps a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Would you like me to move it to CPO 7 now?
Sure.
Let me zoom it in. Oops. So again, those are the public initiated at the top. And let me see if I can get both public and deputy initiated on one screen. All right.
I guess when we're on the subject of traffic, if you do look at the deputy initiated calls, this is when they do have free time. Traffic stops are the number one thing they are doing.
And they are separate. You can see in CPO 7, there is a traffic detail as well. And that's,
Why is CPO 7, like, is it the number of citizens in it that makes a difference, or how do you balance out the patrol between 1 and 7?
Well, the CPOs don't break down into what our districts are. So everything north of 26 will be our 2 area. And I know that the CPOs kind of straddle 26. So south of 26 is our 3 area. The 2 area does get more deputies up there because it is an ESPD area. So the numbers don't quite break down perfectly with our districts.
Thank you.
Could we see the map
Yep.
of where these are occurring?
So this is CPO 7.
And what I'm seeing is some blue and some pink. So what's the significance of those?
So this is a the generalized, like the colors change and it gets darker blue and then becomes that pink and then the red and orange for number of calls.
So just looking at 7, the one that's up in the north is Westview Heights Apartments, which is a pretty high call yield area for there. And then you can see kind of the just north of Marlene Village there. That's where all the shopping centers are, like the Home Depots and things like that get a lot of thefts, as well as the Target area as well. Target's also one of the probably the highest call volume new business that we have up in the Cedar Mill area.
Do the,
CPO
sorry.
ones. Oh, you're okay. Feel free to ask your question.
Do the companies like Target, do they pay more for the enhanced service district? How does that work out?
You know, I'm not 100% positive how they pay their property taxes. I have mused a couple times how we should charge them a little more due to the just Target in general is a large draw for theft. Unfortunately, it's their policies that have made them kind of a target for these drug users, and they're trying to ratify it now. But unfortunately, what it's causing is a lot of work for the sheriff's office to clean up what they kind of created.
Thank you.
Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So Target, maybe 25 or more years ago, I used to work for Target Corporation. We did loss prevention. You could actually go hands-on with people and arrest them. It's my understanding that these days the Target, before they even call the police, they have to call a district manager before they can, have us come out and try to assist them with a theft call. So that kind of hinders stuff. But this has been going on for years and through COVID and kind of through the grapevine that got out through the drug users and the thieves. So it's kind of a revolving door for them to go in and get free stuff.
Yeah, I think my understanding, a lot of stores have that policy that they can't. They can't follow people.
I could say we're lucky in the sheriff's offices. We don't have a lot of big box stores in our jurisdictions. A lot of them are, the Beavertons, the Hillsboroughs. That's where all the shopping complexes are. Targets are really the only ones that we have. We have the one on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, and then the one up there in Cedar Mill.
Great. Any additional questions? No? Thank you. This is always very interesting. Okay.
And I'm sorry. If someone is wanting to look more closely at that, we are finally we're able to email that out now. So if you would like me to send this PDF to you, I'm happy to do so. Just feel free to send me an email.
Yes. Thank you. That will be very helpful. Great. Okay, and Paul Kelly, Fire and Rescue.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Nick. I'm a lieutenant here at this station 68. I've been here at this station for about 5 years. So Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue doesn't have a lot new going on as far as for the people we serve, other than running, we're really busy this time of year with calls and whatnot. But we don't have a lot going on for me to report additionally or things that we're doing other than the Toy and Joy that we teamed up with for KGW. So all of our stations are places where you can drop off your toys. I think the cutoff date is on the box there. I want to say it's maybe the 20th is like the last day you can do it. I can clarify that. I should have looked at that on my way in. Just to give you, so we used to have a program at the station that I could go to pull call numbers and distribute them pretty well that way. Well, they changed that, and now that's all done through admin, and I can only get certain numbers of things. So I'll give you the best that I can of our call volumes. I picked September 4th as
December 16th.
December, oh, so I was off. December 16th. Okay, good. I'm sorry, I picked November 4th to December 10th, so I wasn't sure if you guys got this the last time. So in that just slightly over a month time, this station has run 149 EMS calls, and I could not, with the system that I have access to, pull up how many fire calls we had on top of that. I would guess on average 80% of our calls are EMS. So in that realm, I think we're probably running around 30 fire and miscellaneous car accidents and that stuff in that 1 month window. So that would be specifically for us. 6-8 covers the CPO 7 area and more. And then station 60, which is up Cornell and Miller, that area covers CPO 1, and their number of EMS calls was 130, and they aren't going to run quite as many fires as we do. Just kind of give you a point of information. This station is what we call a swing station. So we have the same number of crews that the majority of our other stations have, which is 4. We have 4 people here at all times. But we have 2 apparatus. We have a fire truck and a fire engine. And if you don't know the difference between those two, a fire truck is the longer ladder truck that has the ladder that comes up off the back. And that is this station's primary response unit. So when a fire pops, usually draws in at least 3 fire engines and 2 trucks. So we have a huge range that we cover for fires. We could be going all the way down to Allen and downtown Beaverton as the second closest truck to that area, even Hillsborough. So our fire number of calls that this station runs is going to be higher than what station 60, the CPO 1, which is just an engine. So the fire engines are the little smaller ones. They carry water and hose. So those are the important ones to get there right away and fast, because getting water on fire is what gets it out. And so we want those to be quick and ready to go. And that is why we have one here, so that if there is a fire in the immediate neighborhoods, we're not waiting for engine 60 to come. We can pull our gear off of our normal fire truck, throw it on the engine, and get there and get water on that fire quicker. But we don't typically use it unless it's an immediate fire within the next, like 1 square mile, maybe a 1.5 mile radius. We jump in the engine for that. Does that make sense? So that's a system we do at multiple truck stations, and it seems to work pretty well for us. So fire calls, like, sorry, I couldn't give you perfectly accurate information, but I'm going to guess around 30 over the last month for us, and probably in the 20 range for 60s. We have 28 fire stations that cover all the areas that we cover, all the cities. And last year we ran 60,000 calls. That kind of gives you an estimate. So this station and station 60 are what I would call our medium busy stations. Maybe 60 is a little lighter on the lighter side, but we're all averaging. I mean, our station's averaging about 5.5, 6 calls per 24-hour shift, and theirs is probably 4.5 calls per shift. You guys understand why we run medical calls? Is that shocking anyone that we're even on those calls when people call 911 for medical? Do people have a good understanding of that now? Good. Okay. We are just quicker than the ambulances are. Most ambulances, we have some ourselves, but AMR is a for-profit agency, and they just can't afford to put enough cars strategically placed throughout the region that they cover to meet 6-minute response times for heart attacks. That's what it's all based on, is heart attacks. If you can get there within 6 minutes, the person has a very high likely chance of survival, but every minute beyond that 6th minute, your chances go down pretty significantly. And back in the 80s, they realized these fire stations are really strategically located in these communities, and so let's teach them how to do EMS stuff and get them going. And so that morphed into us responding to all medical 911 calls. We have all EMTs and or paramedic level training on the rig. We have to have at least one paramedic, which is the higher level, on every engine or truck that we have. And that worked from the 80s and 90s and kind of built the system that we have today. Just for the holiday stuff, other than the toy drive, they want me to throw out that there's some unique ideas for gifts if you want to give. Smoke detectors are a good gift for your family. If you go around and you look at your ceiling and your smoke detectors are an almond color, there's a high likelihood that that thing is outside of the 10-year use. And most of, like, the older ones actually do hold up better than the newer ones do. But if they're still an almond color, then that thing's probably well beyond its 10-year mark, and it might be time for some new ones. They're not cheap, so if you've got, you know, kids that are getting into their first homes and don't have good smoke, that'd be a great, like, something under the tree. Not the little kids, that'd probably be pretty disappointed in that. Fire extinguishers in the kitchen, it's good to have a small one. You can get those at Costco for a pretty reasonable price. And just having things like that. Another thing we recommend is if you have a 2-story home and all your bedrooms are on the 2nd floor, you can buy rope ladders on Amazon for pretty cheap, and keep those in a closet and have that. So if you can't escape from the main areas of your home and you need to bail out of the window, you can set that up there. So kind of fun gift ideas. They want me to throw that out. Holiday lights, I think most of us probably already have them up. It seems like it came earlier, like it does every year. But if you haven't yet, make sure you're plugging them in before you test them. Look at them real closely. Make sure there aren't exposed wires and things like that before you put them up. That'll help us avoid some issues that could be. Seems like candle usage goes up a lot during the holidays. Make sure we're not leaving those when we leave the house. Christmas time and all of that, don't burn your wrapping paper in your fireplace. That stuff is made of barely any paper anymore. Who knows what kind of toxic chemicals are in the inks and that kind of stuff. So if you're throwing that stuff in your fireplace and burning it at the end of the day, I think that's a really bad idea. Plus, some of those can ignite like that. So don't do that. And water your tree and make sure it's not close to your fireplace as well. If it's dried out, it can go up like a torch if you haven't paid too close attention to that. Any questions for me? We're getting into some inclement weather times. I think they talked about this last month, but just make sure you have a 72-hour kit ready. To piggyback on what the Water Bureau said, make sure that you know how to shut off the water to your home. Some houses have an internal valve that you can shut the whole house, water out to the house, but most of them you have to go out to your sidewalk and do it. That way, if you ever have a pipe burst, you're not waiting for somebody to come help you and do that and you flood your entire house when you probably could have mitigated it to one small room or just a small area on your floor if you can get out there and shut that off real quick. So know how to do that. Have that 72-hour kit. If there's any questions about what to keep in a 72-hour kit, tvfr.com has an excellent resource for that kind of planning and stuff. I highly recommend taking a look at that. Any questions for me? I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much. I'll see you next month.
Are we having our elections now? Bruce, are we going to do our elections now?
Yes, we are.
There we go. So you just double click it. The one that you want to highlight, you double click it.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Yes, I am Bruce Bartlett, the vice chair.
At least in my interface, there's no particular way to raise your hand. So I guess all CPO1 members should turn on their cameras.
The react button is not visible?
Yeah, but it doesn't have raised hand.
Yeah, it does.
Not on mine, it's raised.
Hey,
It's got timer, music, backgrounds, and group photo. But let's go ahead and have all CPO1 members turn on their cameras. And do the gallery view. Guess we don't have very many members here.
I guess we don't. Roger, it's all in your hands.
Fran?
Am I the president?
So Virginia as the chair and me as Bruce Bartlett as the vice chair. We have any CPO1 members here? No. Wow, this is sure working out well.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Fran, are you there?
No, I don't see Fran.
She is introducing
Keepers.
keepers.
What about Mary Lou? Is Mary Lou there?
No.
If you're in CPO1 and you're on the call, can you unmute yourself and say your name?
Yes, hi, I'm Roger.
Virginia.
Bruce.
Anybody else on the call from CPO1?
Well, that's Fran Warren, but she's evidently stepped away. Well, I guess it's up to the three of us. All those in favor of the slate of officers, raise your hand. Okay. Three. Anybody? Oh,
Yeah, Jim raised his hand. Okay.
who did?
Jim.
Jim. Okay. Four.
You can vote also, Bruce.
It's a landslide.
Any opposed?
Anybody opposed? Anybody want to jerk the reins of this powerful group away from us?
This may be our last election. We don't know.
You're talking about the CPO, not the national scene, right?
Well, who knows?
Okay, so yeah, 4-0, we're in.
Right.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Virginia. Thank you, Bruce.
You're very welcome. Okay, onward.
Excellent. I think next on our agenda is the presentation by Washington County on the CPO modernization project.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm Philip Bransford, because Bruce here. Philip Bransford, Communications Officer with the County Administrative Office, been in there 20 years. So it's been a while since I've been in this particular room, though. I remember there was a big meeting with almost the entire City Council of Beaverton was here. Does anyone remember that one? Anyway. Yes. It's a whole nother story. So thank you very much for having us. And let's see, we're going to, I have a set of slides, and Ika's helping me with some moments here in the process where we do want definitely to pause and hear back from you, your thoughts, your concerns, you know, things you like, things you don't like. I have a setup, sort of a backdrop that I'll walk through, and then I was going to have you hold questions until I'm done with that. Those first couple, 4 slides, but then I can definitely answer questions at that moment. My goal is to get as fast as we can into the slides where I guess going to capture your input. So that's the intent, and and I know that several of you have heard this before. So, and we've captured plenty of thoughts from some of your leaders. So I'm wanting to make sure to give space for others that maybe haven't heard yet. So that's just a friendly request. So let's see here. Where are we going? Like we have an overview. And we'll just go over this, the project overview and give you some background, and then I'm going to stop there and do the question, like I was saying a second ago, the questions, just to clarify anything I have said that may have been confusing. I'm sorry, and then project timeline, then the questions, and then we're going to dive into the elements, and we'll just go one by one, like we just said. So with that, we'll carry on to the overview. So the purpose here is to identify immediate and long-term steps to modernize the Washington County Community Participation Organization Program, which includes the Committee for Community Involvement, the CCI, so the CPOs and the CCI, starting with adjustments to Resolution Order 8658. And if you've been around county stuff, you know that first number, 86, that's the year that was promulgated, 1986. And it's the board saying, this is how things should be. So that's what a resolution and order is. That was the most comprehensive, foundational, wide in scope document explaining what this program is to date, 1986. So we've done a lot since then. A lot of great things have happened, but that founding document, the foundational piece, is not current anymore. So in August of this year, the board approved staff recommendation to start looking at an update to that resolution and order, and they launched the effort that Ike and I are helping with, and others, to engage with you. I think this is like a fourth listening session, if I'm not mistaken, that we've done, including a meeting with the CCI itself. And so that was the direction from the board to go ahead and start engaging with the community that we're serving, and then also launch a online poll that I think we have some hard copy where there's a CR code if you haven't yet gotten a chance to get into that poll. So that's what we're up to right now. Let's see, and let's go maybe a little trip down memory lane. This whole thing got started in the 70s with Oregon's very forward-looking, a lot of forward-looking things were happening in that decade, including the bottle bill and protecting the beaches, and land use planning with an urban growth boundary. And these are not widely, adopted ideas throughout our country, but it's that land use kind of birth of that land use piece that really got where this program gets its roots. And through the land use planning system that was established in the 1970s, there was a list of land use planning rules that were promulgated by the state. Rule number 1 was, who knows? Citizen participation is goal number 1. Goal. It's not rule, but the whole thing is a rule. Goal number 1 is citizen participation. And that's where this program is rooted at the early days. Municipalities were charged with establishing community plans. First it started with cities, but eventually counties were added eventually to that requirement as well. Washington County had urban unincorporated area. So the planning director at the time went up to a map and just drew lines and just said, okay, I got so many staff. The state says we have to have community plans. I'm going to make these territories of urban unincorporated area just big enough so I can match them with planning staff. That's how the ball got rolling. Community plans were adopted for the urban unincorporated areas, not cities, but the urban unincorporated areas. Cities had their own community plans. And people were very much wanting to carry on. The board at the time said, okay, well, that's great. We have community plans. Let's keep this channel open. Let's keep this way of getting input from the community which is geographically based. Let's keep that flowing. And so they adopted in 1980 Resolution Order 8108. So 80 again, that's the year, and it named the program as the community planning organizations. That's what CPO stood for back then, because we had just done the community plan, so it makes sense that you would name it that way. And then it also associated a committee for citizen involvement, which is what the state land use planning rules called for, and created that entity within this program. So the CCI is now meeting the state requirement. Other parts of the state they can use their planning commission, and they say that's our CCI. Here in 1980, the CCI was part of this CCI CPO program that got rolling in 1980. Now the community plan's already done, so the planning staff are doing other things. The board said, well, citizen involvement is very much related to education. Who around can help us staff this program? OSU Extension, as an educational entity, becomes the staffing provider for the CPO CCI program at that time. And they had about 2 people that were helping with about a dozen CPOs. So move forward in time, you get to 1986. And the program seemed successful, and the board promulgates this RNO 8650A and renames the program. Instead of community planning organizations, now they're called citizen participation organizations. That's what the CPO. It's always CPO, but they're changed around what the different names are, and that's the RNO we're talking about now, because it's the most lengthy. It goes into a lot of detail as to what the program's supposed to do. And there's a lot of stuff that happened, of course, between 1986 and the other bullets, but I'm going fast because I want to get to your input. In 2014, some of you in the room might remember, OSU Extension said, we don't want to provide this program anymore in Washington County. We're going to hand it back to you. And so the county at that time stood up the board charged transition planning team to figure out, okay, well, what's the next step? If OSU Extension is not going to provide the staffing support, then what should we do? Should it go to some other educational entity? The decision at the end of that multi-month process involving a lot of the participants in the program itself was to migrate the program from OSU Extension to the county administrative office where I work, and now ICA works. And some of the same people, I think all of them, in fact, were hired from OSU that became Washington County employees. The last piece I'll just point out in terms of this big structural thing, storytelling, is in 2020, you probably heard the Board of County Commissioners in February adopted the first ever for Washington County equity resolution. It brought that as a focus to a lot of our work going forward, explicitly establishing that goal and lots of other activities to achieve the goal. But also structurally, it brought that community engagement staff into a new office of equity, inclusion, and community engagement. So that's where the program exists now. That's a quick trip down memory lane. Let's see here. We have a project timeline. We have hard copy because this might not be. Oh, whoops! Nope. There's one more. This one has to do with just highlighting some of the achievements over time, the legacy of contributions that have occurred. This is an important slide. I don't want to miss this one. There's a tremendous history of positive and enduring contributions that you and your colleagues in the program have contributed to the county as a community, as a government partnership with the community for 45 years. There's a lot that is in rule and plan and procedure that maps to our land use planning and transportation planning efforts, including the adoption of the land use transportation and planning work program each year that comes through CCI, as well as development proposals. I think that might be a topic that your CPOs talk about from time to time, is what development is coming through into this area. Public involvement guidelines for transportation and planning and programs and projects are codified in this other RNO, the 14115. And the other thing that's really powerful, but just sitting here listening to it, is the laundry list of partner organizations that inform you all, just like how this very meeting started, with all of those different providers of important public services coming through and giving you an update, including our own sheriff's office, TDFNR, the water district, and so forth. All of that is held dear by the board. I think it's safe to say. And the last thing I'll say, speaking of the board, there are some board members that have come through their participation in the program. John Leeper, anyone remember John Leeper? Came through this program. Greg Melanowski and Catherine Harrington, our current board chair, all have been participants in this program in the past. And I think the board is keen to mention that. All right, so now the timeline, which I think we have hard copy if you can't read this with a microscope, but I'll just say briefly that we've been talking about this because that RNO has been on the books for so long, for quite a while. We had a pandemic that kind of interrupted some of the conversations around updating it, but now we're back this year with effort that's gone on since the spring. A lot of it was making sure the board was good with beginning this conversation with you. Like, what is it that you want, board? And so we did multiple rounds of briefings with individual board members to make sure that we were scoping this project correctly. That culminated in that August 27th work session where the board said, yep, now let's hear what the community has to say about it. So that got us to August. And now we're in this engagement piece where we're going to keep doing that all the way to the end of this month, including that online survey. So please take it if you haven't yet. And then all of that input gets compiled early next year, and we'll bring that to the board in a work session with the goal of having a revised draft RNO, a new kind of constitution for the program by April is our goal. And then perhaps the board would adopt something by June. So that's a quick overview, and I know it's hard to read that, but we have a hard copy as well. So any questions before we start diving in? Yes, Mary.
So scope. One of my questions is like the more I hear, the more I dig into the details. So I've gone back and read Goal 1, and has anybody really gone back and read Goal 1 to see if the current program is fulfilling the requirements of Goal 1? Because Goal 1 talks about CCI being a group that evaluates the community outreach. CCI does not do that. CCI is a group of CPO leaders that meet, they compare notes about what's happening within the community. They're dealing with issues that are happening within the community. They are not really evaluating the outreach that Washington County is doing. And it's almost like we need three groups. We need the CPOs, we need the leadership of the CPOs, and we need a CCI that really does evaluate the CPO program. I don't see anything in the modernization program that really evaluates. There's conversations about, well, CPOs don't do any land use planning. They're not engaged in land use planning. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do. We get those land use applications and we look at those and say, yes, is this application complying with the community plan? Is it complying with community development code? And out of that, we then can go to the community development code, and we can go to the community plan and say, we need some changes here because it's time to start that planning process again. And it's a very cyclical process. And I'm not seeing that coming out of this modernization.
Okay.
So that's my 2 cents.
That's helpful. And it's actually, there's a slide that among the elements that speaks to that. So look, why don't we, if we could,
I'd love to see that because I have not seen it.
Yeah, we know you have actually, because we went through this a couple, 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. But we'll get to that and make sure can we make sure that those comments come into that slide? Okay, that's helpful. So any other questions about just the history and the setup before we dive in? Yes.
This is the 4th session, right? And then there was a poll.
Then there was what?
Then there was like a survey that was sent out.
Yeah, there's an online survey active for many weeks, still active right now.
So can we go back to the timeline?
Sure.
I guess I'm just wondering if this is the last session and the survey has been sent out. It's kind of hard to see like what the next steps are, because I would imagine this information would be compiled, brought back to the board, and then maybe some sort of like discussion would be had.
Yes.
But I know the board briefings are happening in February, right? But is there a moment in time when the feedback across all the CPOs is shared in summary? To
Yes.
the CPOs?
Yeah, but yes, that's the idea. So early next year, we would compile the input, not just from this listening session, but others that we've had and the responses to the survey.
Yeah.
That would happen early next year. And
So
then,
it's my understanding though, that the community engagement department will compile that and present it to the board first, and then they'll share it with us. So
I
we
think it
don't,
would be simultaneous, basically.
well, simultaneous, but we won't hear it, the CPOs won't hear anything until the board does.
Yeah, it's at the same time. Yeah, that would be in April. So I don't know if it's, you can see that.
Board and then the CPOs receive the information.
Mhm.
How is, I guess, like, the board has a certain vision of what it wants to do, right? And then you're collecting feedback from the CPOs, and I imagine we're gonna hopefully come to some sort of compromise, right? The feedback or the vision that the board wants to go. I guess, is there any like in there, like, I guess I'm just trying to figure out when the conversations around some of those changes and our discussions, either with CCI or CPO, are gonna happen.
Yeah, that's up to the board. I mean, we're gonna report back to the board in April. All the findings, and that'll be shared with everybody that wants to see it. It'll be part of the board's, agenda and transmitted to all of the CPOs and everyone on the CCI and so forth. And then it's up to the board.
But what I think is interesting, and this is more like, I think this is where it's gonna get really interesting, is that like, the board has a very different vision from what I have been hearing the CPO leaders and members have, and so, like, I'm just curious, like, kind of like, if there's at all gonna be a conversation between CCI leadership and our CPO leadership, the CCI committee, and then the board, because it seems like they're kind of like on polar opposites on this modernization project.
Well, that's input. Maybe what we need to do is get in and actually start capturing this input, because that's what they're looking for from you. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to be in some of the other.
Too.
Oh,
that's why-
perfect, okay.
So this would
Okay.
be like my point, so that's why
Okay,
like,
great.
I think at this point in time, the team has been able to assess more or less where a lot of the community members stand. So I think you're just gonna hear that in repeat today, which is totally fine. Yes, I just think that, it's gonna be a really interesting process, kind of bringing that information to the board, because, I don't know if there's gonna be like a mediation or like, how.
Yeah, that's up to what they want to do.
Yeah.
They've asked us to get your input. I'm glad you've been able to go to the three of them. That's wonderful. And that's what they're asking for. They want that. They want to hear from all of you. So should we go into it?
We have Roger.
Oh, yeah. Do we have more questions?
Yeah, hi. Do you have an estimate for how much staff time administering the CPO program takes in general? Like just an estimate for, is it one person full-time? Thank you.
Yeah, right now we have one and we have a manager, not enough to do this effort. So we're all pitching in throughout the organization to help. I'm not part of the, community engagement program per se. I'm helping. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where we are right now.
It's about one person then?
Yeah, I think that's it for right now.
Okay.
We have budgeted positions, but there's some people on leave, and so, yeah.
In general, but
And
yeah, in general, like it's one full-time person to run the program and
I
communicate.
think we have about 0.25 FTE at the moment.
Yeah, and we can answer exactly. Why don't we capture that and get an email
Okay.
back?
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, shall we carry on and actually do the listening part? I'm listening, honestly. But we do have this format so we can make sure that we get explicitly which, your reaction to the different elements. All right, without objection, why don't we move forward to the first one? Okay, and this is the slide I was talking about, Mary. So the element here, oh, whoops, do we have the focus and scope? Oh, you're busy. See, we've overwhelmed her already. It's only one person. I can describe it and you can catch up with me, okay? So the first slide that we're diving into here is focus and scope.
Modernize the language.
Modern, first one we're doing, sorry, Mary.
I don't think there's any.
First one is modernize.
The modernized language is a done deal.
Let's make sure that everyone that hasn't been to 1 or even 3.
We've all seen it. So.
Has anyone not seen it before?
So make it really brief.
Let's make it brief. So the element that's being addressed here is that the current the 1986 resolution and order has lots of outdated language, including references to OSU extension, which isn't providing the service anymore, the staff side, references to citizen and citizenry, and only mentioning a chairman when we know that there's more than just men that are leading. So the staff recommendation is to modernize the terminology with the new resolution and order, and the rationale is to align the key document with the county's current more inclusive approach. What say you online or others?
Argue that chairman is not gender specific. I'm a woman and I have men in my descriptors, so I think that's kind of a no-brainer, but at the same time, I would argue that it's not gender specific.
Very good, we'll capture that.
Well, yeah, it's linguistic cutting and battling that.
The language is changing though, can't deny that.
Yeah.
And it will continue to change. Some people don't like it. It's easy to just say chair.
Very good. Okay, did we get those comments? Any online?
Or if there's a consistency within the rest of Washington County language. If there's consistency throughout an organization, it should be consistent.
Right, use the same term, it could be the same, yeah, I get you. Okay.
And I would say never, ever use the word Latinx. I find Latinx to be a profoundly abusive twist on the Spanish language. And if I'm dealing with a queer Latino, maybe Latinx applies, but that's not most of what we're dealing with.
All right. Any other?
Very personal.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Any other comments on this one? Okay, see, we did have comments. All right, focus and scope. This is the one that refers to CCI, so I'm going to go through it and make sure that we get Mary's comment associated here. The project element that's being addressed is the confusion over the topics being focused on and the program's role within cities. So the staff recommendation is to return the focus on the county land use and transportation planning in the unincorporated areas back to the original origin story of the program. In other words, focus back to that original purpose and maintain the CCI's role under goal 1 of Oregon's land use rules. And the rationale is just to clarify the program's purpose and its application.
We're maintaining when we are not currently implementing.
Right.
And I would argue that the CCI has never actually been given the responsibility of doing what our bylaws say. We've never been asked to review any public participation plans, which is sort of the meat of the CCI.
Excellent.
And so the CCI became the CPO leadership group, which is not necessarily in the goal 1 description, but from practical terms, the CPOs needed a leadership group, and so the CCI became that. And then there's also the LUT work program. But as Mary and I can attest, getting anybody to comment on the work program is, very few people take the time to study it, to understand it, to have meaningful comments. So, the CPOs have come to provide the neighborhood association function, which is sharing all the service providers. Which, I mean, I'm going to ask the question: what is it that when we say we need to return to the original focus, what is it that we strayed from, and what are we doing that we shouldn't be doing? I mean, and it's interesting that we have CPO 4K, which is CPO for King City.
Mm-hmm.
And so it implies that the city of King City is in the purview of CPO 4K.
Mm-hmm.
But it evidently is not. But if we're talking about community, the things that the cities do affect the community. So I thought that maybe we should rename the program the County Participation Organization if we aren't allowed as a group to say anything about other cities. And building on that, are we allowed to say anything about clean water services? Because that's not city. Or can we give testimony to Walton Hills Park and Rec District? Because that's not county. And if the city invites us to give feedback, would we be allowed to do that? So in the absence of a coherent framework being developed by community engagement to describe what the issues are, we're just left with these guidelines and the descriptions, which don't do a very good job in describing the framework of why we're doing it and what we want it to result in.
That's helpful. That's helpful. I just captured those questions.
Clackamas County created a framework document for their public participation system and has a lot of unincorporated area, has CPOs, has a CCI, and they restructured some of that. But they had a framework document that guided what they're doing, and we don't have anything that guides us, other than there's been some offenses to the cities and there's public meeting laws.
Right. That's excellent. We want to clarify that. So I'm glad I can capture the questions you were bringing up. Were there other comments at this point?
I'd like to tag on to, I'm sorry, Virginia had her hand
Oh,
up.
Virginia, can we go to Virginia, Mary, since you've already commented? Go ahead, Virginia.
I can't understand what you're saying very well, but pretty much Bruce, I think that was Bruce. It's really hard to identify who's speaking. But anyway, it's about the cities. Hi. That we have people who live in urban unincorporated Washington County in CPO1 who are highly affected by what goes on in Beaverton, and the boundaries are all over the place. And to say that we can't have anything to do with the cities is wrong. I concur with Bruce.
It could be that we aren't allowed to do political activism regarding the cities. But if city policy.
Well, when it comes to land use, that's what we're interested in. When a development is going in the city, but it's smack dab next to the CPO boundary, and it affects us, the way we travel and the way we move around, we should have a say in that. We should be able to speak amongst ourselves and talk about it and not have to go to the Beaverton neighborhood meeting.
Well, or maybe we should.
Well, I think let's capture Virginia's point. Are there other people that haven't had a chance to say something about this first, or I guess we're on the second scope and focus piece.
Yeah, that's good.
Mary's got more to say. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken already I can't see like the hand raised?
I'll say something. I don't exactly know what goal 1 is, so it would be helpful to understand if we're saying, you know, that we want to go back, go forward, sort of change in goal 1 as we reference. Having an understanding of goal 1, I think, is important. But I will say, what's the point? I think that a lot of people are involved in the CPO program because it gives them a chance to be involved and engaged in the community and flex their advocacy muscles. And if we are then narrowing the scope of the CPO program, then what's the point? Then I might as well just do a newsletter with my neighbors and us, like, we don't have to participate in the CPO program or on the committee if we're gonna have more of an impact without Washington County coming on board. And then that's more work for you and I and everybody else, and Pam Treese and Catherine Harrington trying to, like, you know, work with us and having Marissa trying to communicate with us. So what's the point?
Yeah, okay, I think we've got that one. Thank you. Anyone else? And I know Mary wants to talk, but I also am cognizant of the time. We've got several more to go. Do you want to, can you,
This is probably one of the biggest.
okay, go for it, go for it.
You know, I want to hammer on the city issue. And it's,
Okay.
if the city is wanting to change their urban growth boundary, if I live just outside the city boundaries, how can I then advocate for my position if I can't communicate with the city? You know, one of the things our CPO did in the city of Hillsborough was city of Hillsborough wanted to put a red dot camera at Evergreen and 185th. And definite impacts to our CPO. Yes, was it inside the city of Hillsborough? Was it the city of Hillsborough that was trying to make that decision? Yes, but I think it was really important for us to step forward to say, we think this is a really bad idea.
All right. Thank you.
So
Other thoughts?
when can the CPO do something as a body in terms of testimony or advocacy? And when is it necessary for individuals to do that advocacy?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not clear as to when the CPO is allowed to act as a body.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
CPO 8 tried to weigh in on North Plains, and that was one of the factors that caused, you know, that brought a lot of this about, that the CPOs are not, just like the county employees are not allowed to do political advocacy on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
A CPO meeting is the same as a board meeting as far as being an official public meeting, and we can't do political advocating. But when can the group of CPO members sort of say, okay, you know, the CPO meeting is closed, but we as a group of citizens have this feeling about some action of the city. That kind of clarity would be very helpful.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Could it be even the CPO distributes unbiased information, and it's the way to let people know this is possibly going to impact you. You might want to plug in to you know, show up at board meetings, you know, city board meetings without really
Taking a position.
Yeah. And is that the line we shouldn't be crossing?
I saw Nancy hasn't spoken yet. Just put her hand down.
Just one thing. I guess for me, it's looking, what is the long-term goal of the modernization project?
Mm-hmm.
Really, what is it? What I see is that it's to narrow the perspective of what the citizen participation groups are able to do. Rein them in just a little bit or a lot in some cases. And if the original goal 1 was to ensure that public participation occurred in all areas of land management, land use,
Mm-hmm.
And to enhance that participation, it seems like what I'm seeing is a divergent from what that initial goal one was suggesting and recommending. So what is the long-term goal? That would be a really helpful answer to say, what do we want to see 5 years down the road with the adoption of these changes?
And that's what I'm talking about, the framework.
Right.
Why are we doing this?
Right.
Other than.
I think the board wants a framework as well, and that's what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's working.
Yeah, what is, so if we went through the agendas of these candidates.
So we have a hand up
I think-
online.
Same kind of idea right now, which is in the past year participating in this program, a lot of the things that have been brought up specifically around mental housing and development have been across a variety of different organizations, and we've had to work with a lot of different people. I don't know, I think it would be interesting, I think you were about to say this, to see what has been brought or what has been a part of the discussion and or the agenda in past CPO meetings over the last 2 years. And I think that will allow the county to understand that some of the topics that are brought here have a lot of tentacles into a variety of different kind of avenues across the city, the county, clean water services, more than just Washington County.
That's all.
I don't know if that data has been pulled or if there's any activity around that, but that would be helpful
Yeah,
because
thank you.
from our perspective, conversations that we've been having here have been a bit more broader. So if the scope was narrowed to what you have outlined there, I don't know that those conversations would have been productive.
I think we've captured that. That's great. I understand there's somebody that had their hand up online.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I liked what Virginia, the point she brought up about what the cities do, can and do impact unincorporated areas. And specifically, it would seem like there needs to be communication and coordination with traffic volumes and traffic patterns and traffic projects. So maybe there already is, but it seems like CPOs or unincorporated areas should get a notice or somehow be included in that, in these inter-county traffic pattern planning type stuff. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
the Washington County Coordinating Committee, kind of, is the city and county.
Well, there's clear reference to transportation here too, so. I think Roger's point is well taken. We'll capture that.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
The WCCC that does the coordination, it just doesn't have a public facing component to it.
Yeah, so this is good points. Mary, and then why don't we move on?
Okay, if you go back to goal one was state, federal, county, special service districts as being appropriate places for citizens to be engaged. So I hope our focus does not narrow so much that we aren't able to communicate with other jurisdictions.
Yes, I think we've captured that point a couple of different ways just now.
But goal one.
Goal one.
We really need to read goal one.
Goal one, I've read it. How about we move on to membership and eligibility? If Ike is ready, I'll start reading it. The element to be addressed here is that the leadership selection for this program is out of step with every other board or commission that the board has created to receive input. And so the staff recommendation would be to allow the county board to appoint members of the CCI, who in turn would serve as the leadership of each CPO. So there would be this dual role. There's a CCI, and the board is going to appoint, under this proposal, would appoint those members as they would with other boards and commissions. And then those individuals would also be the leadership of individual CPOs. And the rationale would be to align the CCI and the CPOs with the board's approach to its other boards and commissions that it has created over time, about 30 of them. So what say you about this, Nancy?
The CPO or the organization is not a board. It's not an advisory board. It's not an advisory group. And I don't think it was ever intended to be the same as what you have. If you have an advisory council that specifies in a particular topic of something. I've sat on some advisory councils. They're very specific to the topic. It typically is less advising the council than it is listening to what the county is doing. So I don't see the citizen participation organizations as being that type of a group. And I don't know why it needs to become that type of a group.
Okay. Other thoughts? Thank you for that. Oh, someone's raised their hand. Virginia, go right ahead.
I guess my concern is that I've always looked at our function as being holding the board and the county to our standards, to the objective standards of goal 1, and how I haven't heard a good explanation for how this isn't the fox guarding the hen house.
Okay. Other thoughts on this? Oh, someone else? Roger? Is that no?
Well,
No,
I'll give you
Rob, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, Rob Skinner, CPO3. Yeah, I have the same concerns that Virginia has, in that you can get too much of a good old boys club with the commissioners appointing the leadership of the CCO.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing some nod as well. Anyone else?
well, it could be helpful if you don't have any people wanting to lead the CPO, so it wouldn't hurt if there was a lack of leadership, that the county would have the authority to appoint someone at least, or with the whatever. You get the idea?
All right.
So
I'd rather have some other sort of recruitment method than the default being the county commissioners appointing CPO leadership.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. How about Nancy and then Mary?
I also noticed that they want leadership to complete applications, which includes providing resumes, because I looked through what the current application process is. And I think that could be easily intimidating, especially for groups of individuals who haven't historically participated as much. And I think rather than it being an inclusive move, it would be an exclusivity move. So I would really oppose that.
Okay. And then Mary, you had a comment.
This whole thing makes me smile. It's like, it's so easy to find people who want to volunteer to be CPO leaders. It's you know, who's gonna sign up? Who's gonna be twisting arms? But when I go back to those 3 groups, CCI, the CPO leadership, and the CPOs, if you have a CCI that is really evaluating community engagement as envisioned by goal 1, it makes sense perhaps to have that appointed by the board and be a board commission. But the CPO program and CPO leadership alone, it's got to be citizen driven. It's got to be, you know, grassroots with people who really care about the community.
All right.
When we did the service level agreement between the county and the CCI, Danny Ledesma was clear that the CCI fulfilled a unique role in allowing people who are not assigned by the county to assume those roles. So this turns that around and says that the county will assign CCI roles, and I'm not opposed to that, but along making the CCI symmetrical to the boards and commissions, the boards and commissions have their agendas assigned by county staff. It's very rare that members of the advisory councils put agenda items on. It's the staff that puts agenda items on. I I served on the Behavioral Health Council for 30 years, and staff provided all of the agenda topics. In part because they were professionals, they knew what was going on, and they had a grasp that virtually no people on the committee did. So it was a learning process. And I served on the ESPD Advisory Council for 12 years. And it was an uphill battle to get things put onto the agenda of that group that weren't specific to what the sheriff's office wanted to talk about.
Okay.
We were able to get the detective that is the FBI liaison to domestic terrorists to talk about what the sheriff's office is doing regarding hate groups in the county. But that isn't something that the sheriff's office offered. I had to make a pretty big deal to say, we need to talk about this.
Okay, so
the boards and commissions their minutes are maintained by the staff, the agendas are maintained by the staff runs the meeting. And so it's an indication that this proposal was not really well thought out in terms of what it actually means to do it.
okay, so who sets the agenda is a concern in this element.
I mean,
Okay,
the boards and commissions, staff sets the agenda.
got it. All right. How about we go on to program requirements, unless I'm missing anyone there. Program requirements for the next
I
one.
would just say, I mean, to summarize that is the independence, the CPO program provides an independence from the county.
We're supposed to be the thorn in your side.
But it's a rose nonetheless.
The SNR.
Program requirements. This project element was meant to address confusion about CCI CPO status under the Oregon Public Meetings and Records Law. The staff recommendation is to clarify that compliance with the Oregon Public Meetings and Records Law is mandatory. And the rationale is that greater participation or greater participant understanding of the rules by which the participants must conduct themselves would ensue. And then the program alignment would be with that, how other advisory bodies are conducting themselves as well. So this is this is
non-negotiable. This is something will happen.
Yeah, the board created the program to advise the county. And if you look at the law, it's pretty black and white. It's gotta be a non-secret meeting. This is a public meeting. Anyone can kind of be part of it. So that's what this is saying, is just following those laws.
I would just say, with the addition of sufficient staff support, that we understand what it is that we need, and we have the technology and the assistance to be able to do it.
Right. And friendly amendment to that, would you appreciate getting more training?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you would have to have.
You'd have to have more training.
Okay.
And somebody
Some
that
sort
you
of
could.
toolkit, it's not like 300 pages.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Other thoughts online that it looks like Roger's got a hand up.
I missed that, the notes, the Zoom feature with the notes, is that illegal to use?
Yeah, with the chat.
Yeah, the chat. I mean, it'd be nice if we could share some links once in a while and some references while we're in a meeting, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
This is probably one of the biggest limitations that public meeting laws have given us, is that we can't have a chat. So people can't put their links, email links in the chat, because there's a danger we have a side conversation.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, but the reality is CPOs make very, very few recommendations. And so we're limiting use of the chat, which the Zoom user guide for CPO members on the website now talks about using the chat. But we aren't allowed. I mean, it's a really frustrating thing to not be able to have public sharing of contact information.
Okay.
It's also not clear, or I haven't got a clear answer about subcommittees. And if the subcommittees are meeting and making recommendations to the CPO program, do those subcommittee meetings need to have minutes, and do they need to have?
Public meeting law.
Yeah, do they have to, are they required to comply with public meeting law?
Right.
Which becomes really, really difficult.
Yeah, so we'll note that as well.
I think just having a little bit more organization and infrastructure for the CPOs to be a little bit more organized. I don't know what that might look like, but imagine there is, I don't know, a box folder, a magic box folder that has like a CPO folder, and then every CPO has their notes in there, and then that way it's easy for Washington County to access, and things don't have to be mailed, and recording spells to be put in there, and you know, additional kind of.
You're talking virtual folders.
Yes, I'm talking about
You're
like.
talking about modern features.
Yeah, when I saw modernization, I was like, whoa, okay, we're gonna get some stuff, but, you know.
Okay, are we ready to move on from this one? All right, the next one I believe is boundaries. Am I on target here? Okay, so the project element to be addressed, the CPO boundaries are not congruent with commissioner districts or with cities.
Who cares?
So the staff recommendation is no less than 1 and no more than 3 CPOs per commissioner district. And those districts change over time, including city boundaries. So it automatically adjusts boundaries as annexations and redistricting of the commissioner districts happen. The rationale would be that this would remove confusion about commissioner district and CPO relationships. So there would always be a congruent relationship there if you're looking at it from the vantage of a commissioner district. And better supports the program's focus on land use planning in the unincorporated areas. Yeah.
I want to know who's confused.
Yeah, there's some confusion that I've heard from board members.
There's only 5 of those.
And others that aren't as familiar with the program.
Well, but.
As you are.
How many people in the public know what commissioner district they're in?
Yeah, there's
I
confusion.
mean, it's,
2%.
yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, so there's
So
confusion.
This is going to confuse the board, this is going to confuse staff, it has nothing to do with the CPO program. Our CPO boundaries are set up based upon community plans, which may have just been lines drawn on maps.
Mhm.
But if you divide those community plans up, it makes it way more difficult for CPO leaders to understand, you know, you may end up with three different community plans within one CPO at that point.
Yes.
I have a question. So, this is a CPO 1, CPO 7, right? But, okay, so within CPO 7, for example, right, we've had Pam come to our meetings, and then I've seen Catherine come to our meetings. Does that mean that they're confused, or are they both kind of overseeing CPO 7? Because if that's.
She's the chair.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, so it's
She's like-
Pam, Trees, and then so Catherine just comes because she's kind of like the
She's
board
like-
chair, right? I mean, isn't there value in like having someone, like 2 individuals kind of oversee like a CPO program, because then they have more insights into what's happening across the county. And at the same time, we have more face time with them to talk to them about issues that are impacting our community. So if there's ever a board vote, instead of having access to one person, you have access to 2 people, right?
All right, let's capture that. Are there other thoughts about this one?
I
Yes.
would say your state legislative districts are purposely drawn over multiple municipality districts, so that there is multiple representation. It's done that way on purpose. So that our House district incorporates a little bit of Hillsborough, a little bit of Beaverton, a little bit, a little selection of Multnomah County, those kind of things. And it's so that you have more than one person to represent you, and that legislator or that representative has a responsibility to more than just one section of people, jurisdiction of people.
Okay.
A person's concept of community does not adhere to these boundaries. And so when we talk about community participation, you look around and what are the things in my community? And this modernization is looking to restrict it down to just those things that pertain to the county. And so for the boundaries, the original 8108 said that there would be the CCI, CPOs, and there would be the homeowner associations would be the final leaf. And the homeowner associations were never included in the CPO program, and the county does not forms homeowner associations with subdivisions, developments, but they don't track them. And so the leaf of the nodes, the homeowner associations, which is the lowest level geographic entity that lets people organize themselves, is absent from the program. And the CPOs give geographic areas the ability to say we've got a speeding problem, we have vegetation problems, we have some sort of drainage problems to Clean Water Services last month here in this room. So we're not talking about county issues, we're talking about community issues. And the CPOs have become that community voice that includes the county, but includes everybody else that is part of what makes it up. And because we have the service districts, the county did not adhere to the planning concepts of having cities provide urban services. You know, Rosenberg let development happen wherever it could decades ago, and here we are. So modern urban societies need a gathering force, and the CPOs have become that gathering force. And it feels to me like by restricting it to just county land use things, that we lose the neighborhood community aspect of the program. And Mary and I go around about this. And so I think we need to acknowledge that there is the land use side of things where we look at the work program and the development code. And then we also have community things, which are like the fire and rescue and the parks. And I've been putting together an agenda that would have both the mental health ride-along program of the sheriff's office and the crisis intervention program of human services. And now the TVFNR has their SHARM program where they have paramedics that go out without all the rigmarole. So it's not land use, but it is services that are valuable for people to know about. And the CPO program presents things that people need to know about way beyond way beyond the complexities of land use.
Okay.
You know, the DA wants to come and talk about DA stuff. And the schools, we have Beaverton School District, or I'm sure Hillsborough School District's coming in and talking. So there's all this community activity that I fear would be lost. So I would like to know, we could put together a list of all the topics that we've included in our agendas for the last couple of years and let the county analyze it and say, this is something you should not be presenting to the community.
Yeah, all right, I think I understand. Go right ahead.
Are we in the bike rack now, the parking lot?
Oh, I don't know. Does anyone else have any comments about the boundaries online? Did we miss anyone online talking about the boundaries?
So
that was the last one, right?
I think that given modern GIS technology, that we create boundaries based on whatever the purpose is. So I noticed in the survey, it included both library districts and school districts. And those are things that the CCI has suggested would be possible boundaries. And so rather than put the CPOs as the commissioner districts, but allow flexible organizations of different geographies based on whatever the subject at hand is. And it might be that it's the entire county needs to hear about it. So all the CPOs would work together. It might be just a few blocks out of one. It might be an elementary school attendance zone is the logical boundary for a particular subject.
Okay.
So flexible boundaries.
Okay.
I have,
Did I miss someone? Does that sound mean that somebody just raised their
I
hand?
think so.
Did you have something about the boundaries or about the parking lot?
Roger, do you have something about the boundaries or the parking lot?
Yeah, boundaries.
Okay, can we let him go and then we'll go to the parking? Okay, go ahead, Roger.
This might be dangerous, but it would seem like coupling the CPO boundary to the commissioners, to a commissioner, might make the commissioner more responsive to the CPO. But maybe that's already been discussed. Maybe it wouldn't work, but it just seems like it would make more sense to directly couple it,
Okay, well, capture
like
that.
you suggest. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready to round out with a parking lot?
I disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
I think our commissioners have been extremely responsive to our issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Duly noted.
But we have to invite them. It's rare that they say, we want to come to you.
All right. Are we ready for the parking lot now?
Yes.
All right.
I think I mentioned this before, but I'm surprised that as part of this like modernization proposal, that there isn't mention about the other programs that Washington County has, and there's a lot of like community engagement programs that are targeted towards like the BIPOC, underrepresented communities. And so like what would be fantastic, I think, in my perspective, would be having a deeper understanding of all of the programs under community engagement and how like their relationship to one another. Because I think the CPO program is a great program. I think that those programs serve as a pipeline for the CPO program, and this is something that Nancy and I have talked about. So it's like, I feel like this whole conversation has kind of been like very like, okay, let's look at our little pocket and corner, but it's like everything works in a system and not in a vacuum. So like we should be thinking about like the other programs and you know the CPO program's relationship to them and how we support one another. Personally, I feel like the other topic that we're missing is recruitment. People reach out to the CPO program when there's an issue in the neighborhood. You know, and you know, that's not super great because, you know, they're probably learning about the CPO program very late in the game. Things have already happened. They get disillusioned and they move on. But we need to really start bringing people in as soon as they move to the neighborhood. It shouldn't just be a thing that they go to when they have an issue. And so our CPO is hosting, this is a plug, a January, what is it? It's a resource fair, right?
Yes.
And we're inviting the service providers and we're creating flyers and we're inviting their neighbors. And it's like, I feel like that needs to happen across the CPO program. And honestly, I don't think it should just be the responsibility of the CPO committee members and leaders to do more active recruitment in the community. It should be Washington County's job. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, but yes.
Okay, thank you.
When applications for the boards and commissions come in, they have a rigorous application form. And only a few of those are selected. And the other people could be funneled into other participation venues. And it could be that the CPO is you get experience and then you move into the Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee or something like that. But recruitment to the program is done with the flyer and the tax bill. And the community engagement newsletter and very little else.
So Bruce, I've actually asked in the past, when the letter goes out, when you apply for a board and commission and you don't receive an appointment, there's a letter that goes out and says, thank you for appointing, or thank you for applying, you know, try again next time. But why doesn't it say, if you want, or we'd love for you to be engaged in the CPO program. Here's information about the CPO program. It hasn't happened. I mean, it's like, how many times do I have to ask for this? Is this a bad idea?
We'll capture it and
Okay.
put it on the flagpole.
Okay.
Nancy.
I think, additional training for especially individuals who say, yeah, I'll take on some sort of leadership role is critically important, because otherwise, you wind up making a lot of mistakes that you didn't need to. And it gets frustrating, and after 6 months, you're gone. So you lose whatever enthusiasm a person brings to an initial.
And Nancy has made it past the 6-month mark.
Yay, she's not gone.
There they go. But I also think that if we're talking about citizenship engagement, that begins in a school setting. And I'm a little surprised that if there isn't some sort of a like citizenship 101 that students could learn about, or at ECC there could be a non-credit class for going in and finding out about land use and transportation and all those different things, which would raise people up to the point where they felt they were competent to even make a comment in an advisory council meeting.
I like that. So with the advent of the
Oh wait, Bruce, do you mind if we go online? Just okay. We have a hand online. I don't want to ignore it. Oh, it's Virginia.
I'm not quite sure where this fits, I guess on the bike rack, but the term modernization gives me some heartburn. I can understand it when it's applied to the language, but it's got a real positive spin to it. And most of the people that have been involved in CCI for a while see this as changes and modifications, but not necessarily modernization. And I'm curious when the leap was made to start calling it a modernization program.
Yeah. Okay, we'll ask about that. Okay, so, any final
riffing off of Nancy's.
Okay, go ahead.
Once the equity statement was created and the racial lens was applied to as the primary thing, the civic leadership training program, civic leaders training program was only offered to BIPOC individuals.
Not true. It's open to anybody.
That is not effectively
absolutely
true.
Not.
It is absolutely not true.
It's certainly
no, you can't argue it. You can't argue
it's got a certain purpose, but
it does.
You can apply for it.
You can apply, but you won't get in.
Yep. We've tried.
You've tried, you've applied, Virginia?
Yeah, no,
you've applied?
Specifically, it says if you are.
Civic engagement, like,
Say again?
I feel like the civic leadership program is more like for people who are beginners in civic leadership, not like folks who have been in this for decades, right?
Well, right, but there's like the 101 and then there's the 201 and 301. You have, so the civic, but we've asked to see what the civic leader training curriculum is, and we have been refused the entire time. We have no idea what is actually being taught except for an extremely.
It's along the lines of just heard, yeah.
Beg pardon?
It's along the lines of just heard, like people that are, for, they're not, well, how do you say it? It's like, the systems in society are not really opening doors to certain parts of our community, and this is opening a door. It could be a language barrier, it could be a cultural barrier.
It's a noble thing. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be that, but there is no civic leader training for the general population, and there is no training of CPO leaders for the last 5 years.
No, there's no awareness of the program. Kenzo, can you repeat what you told me about the program? You remember what you said?
I don't know what I need this morning.
It's along the lines of, it's just a really hidden program.
Oh yeah. It's just kind of on the radar until you ask the right people, which that's itself kind of hard to know who to ask, right? You never know this kind of program.
Yeah.
Right. You just have to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
To be aware of this. And even then, it's very rare to make that.
Yeah. I think that's widely held view. We are, I think, at the end of your meeting, this is your meeting. But I'm very grateful that I was able to come and hear all this from you. I appreciate it very much.
Were you able to complete?
Oh, the only other piece was just a reminder about next steps. So again, we're going to finish off that online survey this month. And then the target is for April 2025 to bring the compilation of all the input we've received from the different listening sessions as well as the online survey to the board. So please look out for a notification about that because we want everyone to learn about that. And that concludes the listening session, if you want.
As many times as you want, so if you have new thoughts, you can enter those new thoughts.
No comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate you coming in. That was, I think, an excellent method for hearing all of our different thoughts and compiling. So just the agenda reminder just talks about our traffic safety subcommittee. You can join their meetings online. If you're interested in joining the subcommittee, email us at cpo7leaders@gmail.com. Same for the steering committee. We still have some openings on that. We would welcome participation in there.
So can I help us out with that? I mean, they just seem to have all sorts of people that want to volunteer for the CPO program.
That's wonderful.
And next month's meeting, look for the agenda for that. It's going to be a totally different endeavor. So we're inviting some agencies, participants to come and join us for food and beverages. We'll be meeting up at Bethany because they let us bring food and beverages there. And it will be 7 to 8:30. So we're cutting it short, but it's an opportunity to meet your neighbors, talk to some folks with agencies, and hopefully we'll have some folks from Washington County. I think we already have one confirmed yes. And so look for that on the agenda. Contact us at cpo7leaders@gmail.com if you have any questions. And thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it very much.
I don't think we need a motion to adjourn.
We're done.
Edward is in here.